I used to encrypt data for the government. Everything from MI6, the FBI, CIA, to operatives, to governments, to pharma companies, to every law firm, every drug cartel. Anybody who needed privacy would use my encrypted Blackberries. And in 2005, I decided to turn on the government and say, hey, there's some things that they're doing. I saw sex trafficking, I saw human trafficking, I saw when it was guns and drugs, and I knew it. Somehow in my mind, I could rationalize that, like that's what governments do. And I just moved forward. But when it got to people, I said, that's enough. And at that time, I pulled away and gave my technology to the public. What happened was the feds came in the United States and arrested me. And they held me for 27 months, 17 months in solitary confinement.
My guest is the co-founder and driving force behind Human Garage, a global movement reshaping how we understand stress, alignment, and the body's innate capacity to heal. His journey has woven together entrepreneurship, physical adversity, radical self-inquiry, and a mission to empower people to reclaim their well-being through accessible fascia-based movement. This story is one of reinvention, insight, and a relentless commitment to helping others feel free in their own bodies. And I'm excited to explore the path that led him here. I am super excited to welcome my new friend, we met a little while ago, Mr. Garry Lineham. G'day, Garry.
Hey, how you doing, Jam?
Good, man. How are you?
That's a great introduction. I mean, I listened to you say it that way, and I goes, holy crap! I think my life was really hard, maybe, possibly,
I
but
don't
it
know.
didn't.
I don't know. You were the one who was there all the way through, mate. You were the common denominator through every chapter of your life, so you'll be the first person to tell us.
Hey,
But
Jim, I have a magic trick to bring us into coherence, and the
yeah,
audience can do it with us too if they want to. It'll sync us right into the conversation. You want to do it with me?
let's please do that.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a simple fascial maneuver which syncs our brains, our hearts, and our energy together. You just cross your right ankle over top of your left. Take your right hand, put it underneath your left armpit. Left hand on top. Turn your head to the left and your body to the right. Okay, we'll take 6 breaths together, 3 through the mouth and 3 through the nose. So breathe in. 2, 3, through the nose 3 times. 2, 3. Okay. Now, tell me it. You feel it?
I feel it.
It's an instant sync. It's almost like we're more focused together. It's like you're bigger on the screen. The world around me fades, and
Yeah.
we're in the same bubble and zone. And we do this before every meeting, before any interviews, before we go on stage, when we're going to have a discussion, when things in a discussion aren't going well,
Yep.
because it brings us back into coherence. And when we're coherent, generally people who are coherent get along and make things work and find answers. And when we don't get along and we're not making things work and we don't find answers, it's because we're out of sync. Our modems are not syncing. So
Yeah.
this is the best way to know what you're thinking about.
Oh, mate, I love it. That's great. And I love the simplicity and the power in that simplicity. You know, one of my dearest friends, my brother in the Himalaya, he always says to me, Jem, keep it simple. But sometimes the simple, powerful things like the stuff that you share, people just don't know. Like I just didn't know to do that. And actually, I lie. You, when we first met a little while ago, you sent me some links to some videos, and I went and watched them, and that exercise was in there. And I followed your program online and got the immediate benefits from it, which was wonderful. And my beautiful soulmate, life partner woman, Talia, who has been a fangirl of yours for quite some time, and she's very excited that we're friends, and she's very excited that I'm interviewing you. She's been following your stuff for quite a while, and she's into mind body stuff. That's her work. That's the work she does as well. And so, yeah, man, those simple things like what you just took us through there are wonderful. And just for people listening to this, if you haven't, if you're not watching the YouTube, if you're just listening to this somewhere else, just follow those instructions. And I always say the difference between what you just shared being, a nice idea and it being life-changing and powerful is the actual doing of it, like actually
Yes.
doing it. So what a
And the
great
other
way.
thing that people should know if they want to understand, because there's going to be a natural chemistry. You're technically my twin flame, and twin flames are not always male, female, and you're the exact same astrology, almost word for word, almost letter for letter, almost every number as my wife with very little difference. So you're basically the same energy as my wife, who's my twin flame, in a male format, which means that's where we steel sharpens steel. That's the thing that ignites people together. And we found that out too after we were introduced.
We did, and that was a blast, and just in that short little connection time we had, your wife and I were, blown away time and time again with how our lives have mirrored and matched. That was wonderful. So, Garry, I'm curious. Well, first of all, before we start exploring how you got here, for those people, there's probably not many of them these days, but for those people like me who weren't aware of the wonderful work that you're doing and how much you are traveling around the world, give us a bit of a what your life looks like today. What's going on?
Well, today I guess you have to kind of put it in context. So this is my life's work. And so it's my life's work. I'm not monetizing my life's work. This is who I am, not what I do. And today I don't have a salary. I'm not taking money from Human Garage. The movements that were created, the intellectual property is free for the world. And and I have co-founders that are, slightly different positions, but this work that I discovered, and I discovered is actually not really the right word. This work that I channeled into the world, I brought into the world, um, isn't mine, but I was a vessel that brought it in. And these maneuvers, after 20 years of trying to heal my own body through chronic pain, I had multiple concussions, headache, back pains, going through all kinds of doctors, nutrition issues, digestion issues, sleep issues, going through hundreds and hundreds of doctors and spending $2.5 million over 20 years. I finally became a practitioner because I was trying to solve my own issue, and it got to a point where I was going for help 3, 4 days a week, and I couldn't live my life and run a business and then maintain my health. So I had to make my health my business. And during this time, um, what happened was I started following the traditional path and became a practitioner. We had the Human Garage Clinic with 25 disciplines and 52 practitioners, and everything you can imagine from allopathic to naturopathic to holistic and plant medicine, all kinds of practitioners working together with super elite people like Ben Affleck was a client, the U.S. Olympic team, the Dodgers, people on the in NHL and the different sports leagues, and basically anybody who had a lot of money, who had complex issues that needed to be resolved, or had a lot of money and wanted to optimize their health and performance. Those were our clients. And through that process, I was able to finally, for the first time in 20 years, come out of pain. Um, but when the pandemic came, I realized that I was getting treatment 3 or 4 times a week in my own clinic, and I was fantastic. I was doing better than I've ever done in my life. But as soon as I wasn't able to get the care from other people, I started to fall apart again. And that's where these fascial movements, they came out of the ideas that were founded in working with hundreds of thousands of treatments in the clinic and 10,000 patients. But they were founded there, but those movements came literally overnight, in a series, and we just started practicing them. And during the pandemic, over the first month of doing these, I was finally clearly in control of the pain that I had for, at that time, 30 years. And within a couple months of doing it, I'd started processing emotions. And then by the third month, I started processing old traumas. And I realized at that point that these weren't just movements that were going to heal my body. These are movements that were going to resolve the conflicts that I had that were keeping me from all the things I wanted to do in my life. So when you ask what my lifestyle is today, I travel the world. I haven't been home for 2 years. Um, I've traveled hundreds of thousands of miles a year. We've done 12 events or 12 countries, 60 events from 500 to 10,000 people. And what we're doing is we're igniting a community that started online. During the pandemic, we we had millions of people join us online to do these movements, and there's over 50 million people practicing from what we can gather, with over a billion views and a quarter billion downloads of these maneuvers, including guides and saves and stuff like this. So there are tens of millions of people around the world doing this, and what we're doing is collecting them and bringing them together. So that's what my life looks like today. I travel full time. I travel with a team of as little as four and as much as 20. We carry a camera crew. We're recording and documenting it. We do reality TV, long form documentary series. And then we run a plethora of social channels, including about 15 channels with hundreds of millions of views.
Wow. Wow, and here you are. And so mate, if you could go back to the kid version of you, I don't know, somewhere younger than 10, it doesn't matter really what age comes to you to go back to. If you could go back and share some of the parts of your journey, and especially what you just shared right now, which parts do you think your younger version would be leaning into and excited about, and also maybe completely blown away by, like, no way that happens, what do you reckon? How do you think they'd take it?
Well, I've had multiple lives. I've been an entrepreneur. I was part of the team that built the first blockchain for identity authority. I brought wireless into the world, into Canada in the late 80s. I was involved in the first voice over IP applications in the world, and encryption, and I've had all of these businesses and all these lives. And if I can go back to a kid, the only thing that I would say if I could talk to my younger self is you're here for the experience. Don't take it too seriously. It's all going to work out. Because I spent most of my life worrying and trying to protect myself from pain and suffering and things that I could feel. Like I had this sense that this adventurous, now I say adventurous, but at the time tumultuous life was coming. I had a sense that it was coming. And I had this sense my whole life, but I didn't know what that sense was. So there was this great knowing that I was going to do something in the world to help the world. But there's also this great fear of the pain that I was going to go through to get there. And and that's the only thing. I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't alter anything, because even altering one little thing would possibly not have me here today.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so going back and just saying, hey, you're just here to experience it all, and everything's going to work out. So 30 years of a relationship with pain. I'm only guessing. I mean, I know what pain feels like, but I'd never had a 30-year relationship with it. I'm only guessing there must have been moments in there that were pretty dark.
Lots. I mean, um, there's lots of time when I was out and moving around. I would manage my pain with therapy. I'd manage my pain um, with drugs or alcohol or all kinds of other ways to deal with it. But I I think it's important for people to understand something that I learned along that way. I had a 4 to 6 pain for a decade. I had a 6 to 9 pain for another decade. And then controlled, I had a 2 or 3 pain generally for the decade after that. But when the pandemic came, it was all back. And the real question wasn't, because I thought it was to get rid of pain in my life. And what I realized over time was it wasn't about getting rid of pain. It was trying to understand what the pain was trying to tell me.
Mm.
So pain is the greatest motivator and communicator in the human existence. There's nothing that moves us faster and better than pain. Pain is the quickest way for the humans to alter or make a change. And that's why pain is also used in our lives to inflict pain or fear pain, to not do things. This is how we're also controlled. But in our own lives, the fear of pain is greater than the pain itself. And And when pain is since it is our greatest guider, pain is when we listen to pain and understand it, it quickly goes away. And that's the part that I learned. So the question was, all this physical stuff I had been doing for my body, at the end of it, I was still in pain when I stopped taking action. And I wanted to be a human being, not a human doing. And a human doing was always taking care of these painful cycles and doing something in another program and another adventure and another something to occupy, stimulate, move away from, sedate. And but I had never had the opportunity to be. And this pain was trying to talk to me about things in my life, about my path, about my journey. And because I was trying to sedate the pain, I wasn't there to hear what my journey was. I wasn't here to hear my God sense, my higher self, or whatever it was that was talking to me that was saying, hey, you need to listen up over here. Like you're going the wrong way. And I'm just going to keep putting this pain until you listen to me. And then when I listened, quick, sharp turn, pain started to go away.
What happened to open up your ability to hear it after not being able to hear it? When did you first start to hear it and listen?
Well, I don't think there's a sequence of things that happened, but there's an adage that I say from this point of view, knowing, and listen, I've worked with tens of thousands of people in chronic pain, and I've mentored or inspired millions of people in chronic issues. So that's one thing I know. I know chronic pain, and the one there wasn't one thing, but when the pain of staying the same in anything in life is greater than the pain of changing or altering or moving, then we tend to, as human beings, move. And I'm like you, very strong-willed. I know that you just go and go and go. And for me, it takes a freight train to stop me when I'm going in a direction. And I needed that freight train to stop. So like one of the most painful moments was, as my story goes, I used to encrypt data for the governments, everything from MI6, the FBI, CIA, to operatives, to governments, to pharma companies, to it was a network. So I didn't deal with people personally, but I had agents who did. Everything to that you can imagine. Every law firm, every drug cartel, anybody who needed privacy would use my encrypted Blackberries. And in 2005, I decided to turn on the government and say, hey, there's some things that they're doing. I saw sex trafficking. I saw human trafficking. I saw when it was guns and drugs, and I knew it. Somehow in my mind, I could rationalize that, like that's what governments do. And I just moved forward. But when it got to people, I said, that's enough. And at that time, I pulled away and gave my technology to the public. When I gave my technology open to the public, like open public, what happened was the feds came in the United States and arrested me. And they held me for 27 months, 17 months in solitary confinement. Now, that was my turning point. That was one of my greatest turning points because in there, if I could have committed suicide, I would have done it. I would have done it multiple times over. But they even take away your ability to commit suicide. And this was federal maximum security, solitary confinement, or what they call protected confinement. And that in that period of time, I got to meet that person who I didn't want to meet, who I didn't want to slow down and meet. I got to know that child inside of me that was still trying to find his vision, what he was going to do in life. And I got to use every tool at that time to try to, process my way through that. But that was the primary turning point. It was October 8th, Lionsgate Portal 2008. And for the next 27 months, I was going through a reintegration phase. And I believe, honestly, that I didn't have to make it that hard, but part of it is I had choices along the way. And now I can look back and go, I could have gone this way, I could have gone that way, I could have gone this way. I would have ended up here anyways, but I didn't necessarily have to make it that painful. But for some reason, I like to see the intensity of it. So, and I've also learned that. I know that you're exactly the same.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, dude, that is a long time in solitary confinement. That's not a couple of weeks or a month. That's a long time to be isolated and in the dark. And I can't even imagine, I can't even imagine what you went through. And if you could undo it, would you undo it, or now that
I
you're
wouldn't
here?
undo it. No, I wouldn't undo one thing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't undo one decision. I wouldn't undone my relationships. I wouldn't have undone the businesses. I wouldn't have undone the fights and the partnerships that I had that broke down because all of them, there is, I think there's a general thing that we're taught. Like life is supposed to be this easy thing. And so
Mm.
if it's not this easy thing, then we're doing something wrong. And if we're doing something wrong, then we're bad because we're doing something wrong or we're a failure. And then we put all this pressure on ourselves. And this is a general thing that I see out there in the world today because we're not taught how the world really works or how success works or what our journey is here. We're not taught really about who we are. We're just born into this world. We're supposed to work, achieve through success and through material things. And what I found was that there was a philosophy shift. I thought that all my life that the world had been doing things to me. People had done things to me. And as a result, I was bitter, I was angry, I was frustrated, I was sad, I was fearful because things had been done to me. Then I had this moment of clarity, and this moment of clarity was probably only the last 3 years. I don't remember exactly when it happened. It started 4 years ago, maybe 4.5 years ago, with a fast, a 44-day fast. But this moment of clarity, where I realized that things hadn't been done to me, they were being done for me. And that perspective shift changed everything because then all of a sudden there was no one to blame. As a matter of fact, all those people that hurt me or all those people that got hurt with me, that was all for a reason. That was all to lead me to this point. And it's kind of one of those things like if you can accept the place where you're at, as I accepted the place where I was at, then all of a sudden I could realize, well, I really am here. And if I had changed anything, I wouldn't be here. I mean, I really love who I am and what I'm doing right now. So I believe that that's part of the journey that most people that are listening to this are going through. I know that's certainly my journey. And most of the people that I know that I've mentored or counseled in some way are going through some version of that. So I think that's pretty consistent as a human journey.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I just want to say it again because it seems too simple to be as profound and as effective as it is. But rather than things happening to you, they're happening for you. And
Hmm.
that is such a profound shift that can unlock everything. Does that, I'm just curious, was there any synchronicity with that understanding and embodiment of that wisdom at the same time as finally completely releasing your relationship with pain or um,
Yeah, again, these are steps along the way. People always look for a turning point, and I'd say that anything that's this big, there's no turning point. It's like going around a big corner or like
Mm.
a 400-meter track in the Olympics. It's like going around the corner.
Yeah.
So it's not one point. There's a
Yeah.
lot of little points along the way. And the when I say that statement, things are happening for me, not to me, that's part of an awareness. And people are looking to intellectualize their journey, but until they embody it, they will not get the awareness of it. And that was my experience. Like I had to embody all of this and feel this and come to that very end point where like there was nothing else I could do. I had to completely surrender. And at that surrender point, at that low point of surrender, I had no choice. And for me, it took going to that much pain. And I can say I know I didn't have to, but because I did, I can share with people and help them move past that issue sooner. Even just by saying, this is happening for me, not to me. How is this for me? Even by positioning in that way. Like, like, wow, I want to know why this is happening for me. Like, what is all the good that this is bringing? Even saying those things at the time that you feel the pain transitions it. There must be a reason for this. And this one's big. Must be a big reason for it. And these are things that success and motivators and motivational speakers say. And I believe that a lot of them believe it. I just don't, I haven't seen a lot of them embody it
Mm,
because it's a nice thing to say to have you through those little things. But
mm.
when you're down at your knees and you just want to die and you're willing to take your life and you're willing to surrender, you give up everything. At that point, to be able to find those words, that attitude, and that saying, if you can find it at that point, or
Mm.
even before that point, then people will accelerate. So, my telling the story here is to hopefully touch somebody who's going through that so that they don't have to necessarily go through the exact same thing that I did. They can go through 30% of it or 50% of it, but they don't have to do 100%. And that's part of the of being human. Being human is when two or more come together. I share my experience, and if you use my shared experience as your experience and you move forward with it, you can accelerate the journey. You don't have to go at the same pace.
Yeah, I love that. And somebody's what might be comparatively 50% of what you went through to someone else, that might still be their 100%. They might be listening to this going, I'm at 100%, man. I need some help with this. And the good news is, folks, if you are listening and you're dealing with any sort of pain, whether it's emotional or physical or psychological, and I mean, that's a whole other story around pain, which is fascinating as well. But if you haven't seen Gary's Human Garage videos, and they're widely accessible everywhere for free. Just go and find them, and you'll find some stuff in there that helps immediately. Since we met, I've been checking it out, and it's cool, man. And it's an embodiment, and like you're saying, we're spirits here in a human body. In this point in time, that's the journey where we are embodied, and so unless we embody the wisdom, we haven't got it. We haven't grokked it the way we're supposed to. Hey man, can I do a little tangent, a little sidestep across to talk about consciousness? I'm curious
Sure.
about your take on consciousness. I'm fascinated in it being fundamental rather than being emergent, like a lot of Western science tells us that consciousness emerges from complex biology. I actually believe that consciousness comes first and then the material world comes
Yeah,
later.
I I can use science to prove that statement wrong.
Uh-huh. Yeah, share with us.
So, well, okay, everybody they're trying to raise their vibes, raise their frequency. They're trying to vibrate at a higher frequency. It's a common thing with everybody in consciousness, right? So, what does that practically mean? So, if you think about it, we were taught that first of all, we're just a meat suit. We know that's not true. We're then in consciousness, it's like, well, we have this aura around us. Oh, okay. So I have this aura around me. That must mean that I'm emanating light. That's an interesting concept. And I can't see it, but dogs can. Carillion photography, satellites can see it, and we have photonic scanners can see it. So that's an interesting concept, which means that in there somewhere, if I have a spiritual process, I have a soul. Yeah, that's a good concept too. Now, I just want to flip the switch on it. Number one is to say I have a soul means that I own it. And from a soul's perspective, it's like, hey, dude, I've had 20,000 of you. You don't own me. You're just Johnny come lately. You're just the last version of me having my experience on this planet. You don't own me. I own you. And I think that's a more appropriate way to look at the human experience because we're egotistical and self-centered. So we see everything around us, like we are the sun and the God and the light. We're not separate from it, but we certainly are not it. And in that human experience, we have this frequency around us, which we can measure scientifically today. There is no arguments about that. Um, photonic scans, Carillion photography, like I said earlier, thermography can say, well, that frequency around us is what captures our senses. Like we have five senses we're taught: sight, sound, touch, taste, hearing, smell. Those are the biological senses. But all of us have another 10 that we don't often access, but we do sometimes. Clairsentience, clairaudience. We have a premonition. We hear a voice in our head. Everybody has this at some point. Those are the higher senses that we just normally don't have access to. But everybody has them at some point. A feeling, a gut feeling. A gut feeling is not of those five senses. It's of the higher sense that we feel in somewhere in our body. So arguably, we have all of these higher frequencies, and that field is where those frequencies exist, and it comes into our body, and we interpret it, and it comes in through this mechanism called fascia. Fascia is what we think of as if we think biologically, it's a tissue. It's like a connective tissue that holds everything together. But that connective tissue is predominantly water, silica, sand, and bacteria. That's the same as the quartz crystals, and crystals amplify signals. And as a matter of fact, if you have a cell phone, on your cell phone, you've got little wired antenna. In the old days, it used to be this spiral with an antenna up and a bulb at the top. But you still have that spiral antenna and bulb. It's just in a flattened form, and it's in the back of your phone. It's metal. And then it has a crystal on top of it. That metal goes about 300 feet. That crystal makes it go 35 miles. So our body, what most people don't realize, to break it down, is our body is, at the core of us, calcium is a metal. That's what people don't remember. Go look it up. Take my word for it. Go look at it. Calcium, a mineral, is a metal. So our bones are very dense in this calcium, which is highly metal. It's like a metal conductor. And then on top of those bones, we have all these layers of fascia and muscle and skin. That fascia is an organic, fluid organic crystal that transmits and sends and receives signals. So that higher self is trying to get signals through to us. And if that fascia is tight, dirty, heavy metal like aluminum, strontium, barium, stuff like that, and aluminum, it makes it hard for that signal to get through. So that's where our consciousness is trying to get to us. At the edges of this human experience, it's a high frequency. We can't see it, dogs can, equipment can. But as we get closer into the center of the human experience, we become denser. Like this is denser than the frequency around me. There is a frequency around me, and this is denser. And as we go into this experience of the bone, it's at its densest and most metallic. So the higher frequency we're trying to get to is out here. And we're trying to connect with it, and it has to go through that fascia thing. Yeah. And that physical fascia thing, if it's too much metal, heavy metals and constriction and dehydration, it's hard for that signal to get through. This is a way of explaining us trying to raise our frequency, because our raising our frequency is getting our awareness into that field where all the other senses are. And everybody has the same access to it, but we also have the same density. And by the way, the densest part of the human experience is the body. And we call that, and we say this is the be all to end all. And I'm saying, no, this is the dense part. And I mean dense in every way. It's the not so smart part of us. But it's the one that's perceiving those signals from our higher self. And that higher self out there, you can call it God, you can call it your frequency, you can call it your aura, you can call it, but that is what's connected to everything. And that's when somebody throws something at you, sometimes you don't even see it and you duck. That field around you is informing you somehow to protect you and to guide you. That's a little bit more of describing the human experience in a way that I think we can take some mechanics and some technology, and we can look at it and say, and apply that to our spiritual process. And this is where I believe we've gone wrong, because we have this idea spiritually that we're these animals, just not much better than a monkey or an ape, and we have this connected to God or spirit. I say that we're all part of that. There is no disconnection, but the disconnection comes when we don't take care of this fluid adaptive biological computing system or vehicle.
I love that. Garry, that was so well explained, man. I love that. I find this stuff super fascinating. And, the illusion that we're separate is, I think it's just completely ridiculous. I mean, obviously we are intrinsically and inseparably a part of the greater system, right? And for consciousness
Hey, Jim, I was going to say something. We're not separate, but we have been separated.
Yes.
And the separated is by the pollution of that fluid adaptive biological computing system. The things that we think are good for us are not good for us, and that's part of the problem. And that causes the separation. It's our lifestyle and behavior today.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And the idea that, that the ego is real and that I am a, and I understand the ego is necessary and we have to have a sense of identity to function in this, in the world, and I get that. However, it's nice to remember that the ego is an illusion. It's a creation in our thoughts of who we think we are, and that we're separate. What I loved, one of the many things I loved about what you were just sharing is that we can access consciousness through our field and then through our fascia. That's really lovely to understand that on the in the way that you explained it. It's super cool.
Well, I think one way to say it is we are consciousness.
Yeah.
And what we are is an expression of consciousness, and our ability to interpret it or adapt it. One second. Okay. A bird just sitting out here yelling at me for some reason. So we are consciousness, and it's our ability to interpret and adapt it, which is what makes a difference. And let's use the word ego and emotion. Emotion is energy in motion. And when energy is not in motion, gets stuck in our bodies because of that, of heavy metals as one of them, and dehydration and congestion. Energy gets stuck in the body and it can't go in motion. When energy is not in motion, it's trying to move, it makes the body feel not at ease. And that's the beginning of disease. And so energy and motion is what we are. And ego is where energy goes. So energy is emotion, and then ego is where energy goes. So that's where we direct our energy, is what we call our ego. And we're taught to like something like the ego is bad and we should avoid the ego and ego. And that's actually not how it works. It's just like energy is not bad. Energy, when it gets stuck, it causes disease. Well, when ego gets stuck, when energy and going gets stuck, it causes that acting out of the ego, which is painful. It's painful for the person that's doing it. It's painful for the people around them. And again, if we look at our lives as energetic first and then biological second, everything I'm saying makes sense. But if we look at our lives as biologic first, with energy as something that we trade upon, then these conversations seem mystical and magical, and they seem like something is like wow and how. But if we think of ourselves as energy first and energy around us and a frequency experience, everything I'm saying makes complete sense.
Yeah, yeah, completely. And that everything exists, as information or as consciousness, as energy, everything exists. And that explains, earlier you were saying that, all of these different techniques and all of the work that you're sharing now that it's not yours, but it just came through you. And that's similar to the understanding that we've documented plenty of times of sudden savant syndrome, where somebody has something happens, and then all of a sudden, someone who couldn't play the piano can sit down and play a Mozart concerto, out of the blue.
Yeah.
They're accessing that information that exists in consciousness, and then all of a sudden they've opened to it, they've channeled it, and it comes through them. So when someone says, I channeled it or I downloaded it or whatever, in the past, people might have said, "Oh, that sounds a bit whatever." But now it's like, no, that makes complete sense. That information existed already, and for whatever reason, through your journey, it came through you, and now you're sharing it, and it works.
Well, so fascial maneuvers, it started off as thinking of it as a movement that heals the body. But as we got through it, you have like symbols, like Greek symbols, letters that are symbolic, or Hebrew letters or Sanskrit, and those words and those symbols have energy. Well, that's because what we do is we take and we stop time with a piece of ink and make a symbol.
Mm.
When we do a fascial maneuver, what we do is we stop time and our body becomes the symbol.
Mm.
And over time, I realized it wasn't a movement, but it was a language.
Uh-huh.
And the language used the tone of emotion to direct, to bilaterally direct between my higher consciousness and my awareness, to inform my ego which way to go,
Uh-huh.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does make sense. Hey, is there connection, and have you spoken with Qigong masters and people of other ancient
Listen, there's nothing new. Like when people look at it and they go, hey, this looks a lot like Qigong. Yeah, it does, but it's not. This looks like a lot like this technique. Yeah, but it's not. This looks a lot like yoga. Yeah, but it's not.
No, it's different, but are they,
Yes,
do you think they're
there
related?
there's a philosophy, but I also believe that we have this tendency to go, it was an ancient practice, so that's the right way. Well, first of all, almost all those practices have been corrupted by humans.
Mm,
So we don't really know what the origin of those practices were. Like yoga, fascial maneuvers is all counter-rotated. The origins of yoga were all counter-rotated, but none of the practices today show that. They're very
yeah.
linear in their form and set. Not all of them, but the majority of them.
Yeah.
And and the really advanced yogis, they start to counter-rotate and twist and turn.
Yeah.
And but at the core of it, they're fundamentally humans, the fluid adaptive biological computing system that we call our human existence. It's the same computer
Yeah.
as every other computer, and it has the same inputs and outputs, and those haven't changed. What's happening is we're having an upgrade in our software. And as a software upgrading, that software is making our firmware, our hardware actually more available. It's making those strands of DNA more available. And that's what this 5D that people talk about is coming to. And so what's going on in our little worlds is our bodies are changing and our energy is upgrading, but it's time for us to update the practices. Like, hey, listen, my router, and I'm going to say this with no disrespect to Qigong, because Qigong is the closest thing to doing what we do. But my router, my modem that I had that I used to dial up and go wee, wee, wee.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a modem that I got information out of my computer and back into my computer. And
Yeah.
I have upgraded the firmware on my computer many, many times, but it's the same basic idea.
Yeah.
It's just a better way. The human fluid adaptive biological computing system is upgrading right now. We're evolving. So that means that the modems that we use, like the practices we use to engage the energy in our bodies also have to upgrade. It only makes sense.
Yeah.
So I have great respect for all of the ancient practices, and I'm super open to the fact that none of that applies going forward. And I'm also super open to none of that I've even learned today applies going forward. And the more I know about this, what I'm starting to come to in my life is that this is a communication between my soul, if you want to call it that, or my higher self, and my experience here. And this seems to be a more direct form of communication than the other ones that I've seen. So
Mm.
again, great respect for practices that are out there, but I also think that if humans are going to move forward, we can't look backwards to move forward. If we do, we're going to hit a wall.
Yeah, I love that. It's a beautiful balance, isn't it, between the honoring and the evolution, and understanding both of them. Tali has just recently started teaching yin yoga, and so there's the counter move, and then there's the hold, and you stay still for 5 minutes in that one position. And when you said before, the hold is like a language, like a communication. You didn't say sacred geometry, but that's what came to me. It's like there's sacred geometry in it,
Yes.
and in the
Yeah.
imprint, in the hold, you're writing that letter or that symbol into consciousness, into the information that is, and then it exists, and through your embodiment. I love that.
So if you're taking yoga and you're in the hold and you just turn your head, you've now counter rotated, which is a fetal position. And every fascia created. And so, again, taking current practices and modifying them. And remember this, that we've never had the stressors in human history that we have today. So the practices that we use to abate and take care of ourselves 100 years ago, 50 years ago, our bodies and our lives are different. We need to upgrade our experience completely. And that goes in every aspect. I put a podcast out with Dr. Zach Bush. And if you listen to that, somebody's here, they go to Human Garage Experience and listen to that podcast, you'll be rightfully scared about what our future is. And if you are truly in the flow of the communication, you'll know that there's an answer in there. But right now, as human beings, we're headed for the biggest catastrophe and disaster in recorded human time. And there's nothing that we can do to stop it. The only thing that we can do is evolve at this point. Because what we've done with chemicals and what we've done with bacteria is going to completely eradicate human procreation, which is almost done right now, and human existence within the next 20 to 50 years, no matter what we do, unless we evolve past it. So I just, in this radical belief right now, that the answer isn't to modify what humans are doing. It's to modify the human being and how we be, not what we do.
Yeah, I love that. 100%. You're a man after my own heart, Garry. I'm out there playing my part to help that as well, and help us modify how we be rather than what we do. Yeah. So in this time of, the future being unknowable, but also, very, very real, and the change that's happening now being exponential, truly exponential. And the next 3 to 5 years, and there's lots of people with their opinions out there sharing, what they think it may or may not be. What opportunities? I mean, you shared one just then, really, but are there any opportunities that you see for people listening to this in terms of how they choose to be on a daily basis that will, you know, best position them for the changes that lie ahead?
The shift is happening, and it's not going to be 3 to 5 years. It's going to be 12 to 18 months. And the astrology says that. I'm an avid follower of astrology. I knew that in 2019, I had to close my clinic and leave the United States because I knew something was coming. That's because astrology said it.
Right.
And that was the onset of COVID. January 15th was the date I targeted to be out of the United States. And I was out at December 2019. And and we are now currently, while we're recording this, in the most tumultuous time in human history, from April through to the end of this year. And next year, calendar year, starting in January, or Capricorn, actually in late December, we go into this sorting period. And people are going to face something that they've never faced before. And you can quote me on this, no matter when you publish this, this will be already happening. The value of goods in our world is dropping like this.
Yeah.
Because of computers and robotics. Everything that you own, everything in the house that you have, the shirt you're wearing, all the clothes, everything on the wall behind you, your desk, your computer, was made, the resources to make those things were free. But what we're paying for is human time to think about it, discover it, mine it, produce it, distribute it, sell it, maintain it, and dispose of it. So what we pay for in every consumer good, everything that we get that's not in nature, that's not nature producing completely, is what we're paying for is human time. And all human time for doing things is about to go away. That means that the cost of goods and services is going to drop very sharply to nothing. And I was in wireless phones when it went from 20 grand from a phone to 2 grand to a phone in 18 months. And this change in the economic history of the economics of human history is going to happen even faster than that. Robots are being delivered right now. They're being trialed in people's homes right now, doing laundry and simple things and making food and stuff like that. But you want an addition to your house? Robot can build it. You need wood? It can go out and cut the wood. You need tools? It can 3D print the tools. And it'll do it 24 hours a day while you're sleeping, not even thinking about it. So this is a reality shift that's coming, which is going to put people in this really awkward place because we've established our values as a society on what we do. And when we are no longer valuable for what we do, because our value of everything, it's like when somebody comes in and when in the old days when photo paper was the biggest thing was photo paper. Like photo paper shops all over the world, Kodak, paper manufacturer, film producing plants and factories and stuff like this. And then all of a sudden overnight that disappeared and everybody who's in that industry got displaced. Everybody. And there was this feeling of loss in all of these industries that got completely, think of the industries that are gone today.
Mm.
Like the people that did all the advertising and the flyers and the penny savers and the door hangers, Facebook advertising took it all away. All gone. There's not one place that does that stuff anymore. Like you want to go get mailers made up? It's tough to find a place to do that today. So those jobs went away. And when people built their value, pinned their value on what they did and used that as a position in their society, then it creates this gap, this chasm that causes depression. That's what's coming at us.
Yeah, existential
and it's
crisis.
coming at us like a freight train. And within the next 18 months, it'll be the onset for almost every single person that's listening to this.
Yeah.
And this is where the shift is going to come because that changes what we value and our money and our currency, even if it's crypto or whatever, it's still based on scarcity. And that scarcity is based on human time and how long a human can produce. That's all going away in one shot.
Yeah. And one other piece to that, which I think will also become negligible, is the cost of powering everything, and it's been fossil fuels. And
that actually, if you just want to take a look, go on TikTok, doing free energy, do perpetual energy, magnet energy. All the cost of power is already zero. You just have to get the devices. You buy a machine, $20,000, you get a 60 kilowatt hour generator that can power 12 houses, runs perpetually, zero cost.
Yeah.
And that's the dirty way to get it. We can still get it out of the air, the ether.
Yeah.
And that's coming back. Ether is coming back in style.
Yeah, 100%. So this existential crisis that I agree with you is on our doorstep. What are you sharing with people today in terms of how they can choose to be in their practice with themselves?
Well, it comes to self-worth. First of all, self-reliance. We need to be sovereign in our countries, in our homes, but you can't be sovereign in your country, in your homes, your decisions, and your politics if you are dependent upon those systems. So in other words, if I can reduce stress in my body and feel good in my body, because all these things that we do is to feel good in our bodies. We go to the gym to feel good. We go to a movie to feel good. We take a food to feel good. We take a drug to feel good. So if I can feel good in my body with less and less of those things, I become more sovereign. That's number one. It's to learn to feel good in your body without having to go pay somebody or something else to do it.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you all of a sudden consume less. And when you consume less, you need less. And this is my journey. Like today, everything I own is in 2 suitcases, including the technology I carry around. Everything I wear and really own is in 1/2 of a suitcase. But I carry things like a hydrogen machine, a Nano V, red lights, and stuff like that, so I can be healthy on the road. But that's all I own. I don't own a house. I don't own a car. I don't have a driver's license. I don't own a bank account. I don't have any of those things. And by doing this, people will want less. And as they want less, they will actually be happier.
Yeah.
And this is the transition. But what I'm telling people, it starts off in your body. Because what we do to make ourselves feel better when we don't have it is we think about and go buy a car. We think about it, plan, save, work hard for it, go buy a car. We think about it, plan, work, look at it, go buy a dress or a suit. These are things that we do. And I'm not saying all these things are wrong. I'm saying it's the love of those things and the obsession with those things that are wrong. There are things that you're going to use in your life, but as you become more and more sovereign, you need less and less of those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because a lot of times people need a suit in order to feel confident enough to talk in business. I don't. I have my t-shirt, I have my shorts. I go to business meetings like this. People look at me, I go to restaurants like this. I'm in London in the freaking cold like this. They're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "That's who I am."
Yeah. 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 Absolutely, man. I get that. The less we need, the more sovereign we are, the better you feel in your body, the less you feel like you need to consume stuff to make yourself feel good in your body. And like a modern day monk, brother. That's not to put a label, but yeah, yeah. I spent many years wandering around India barefoot and dreadlocked with not much. I fit all my stuff into one little bag, and I had a little kerosene cooker in there to cook my food. And I'd go to the local village and buy some vegetables and live outdoors and cook my food on a fire. And I look back to those years, and that was essentially really what I was teaching myself to do was to be happy with not much.
Yeah, that is the truth. And when somebody hits that spot and they can truly find happiness and joy, and this happened for me when I was in prison. I had this moment and this feeling of being completely in appreciation and joy because I was actually not working. I was taking care of myself, so I was doing the best I could within there to eat right, which I mean that's hard, but I was exercising every day. I was reading every day. I was doing all the things that I wanted to do on the outside that I didn't do. And I found this moment where I was in complete bliss and I realized, man, this is really a great life. Like I can do all of this and I was grateful for it. And that was my turning point.
Yeah,
When I can be grateful for what I already have, then I can have stuff without having the attachment to it. And
yeah,
that's really the journey that you were talking about when you were in India.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, I love that. When you come to a place of bliss and and awe and gratitude for life with nothing, then anything else that comes your way or not in the future either does or it doesn't, but there's no attachment to it. And when there's no
Right.
attachment, there's the beautiful, people sometimes say to me, "Oh, but if you're not attached, that means you're detached and then you're not giving yourself 100% of yourself to that relationship or to that moment or to that thing." And I said, "No, no, that's not what I mean. Attachment and detachment are the yin and yang of each other. That's a relationship. I'm talking about non-attachment. It's outside of that attachment detachment relationship. It's beyond attachment." And
So we came from the age of Pisces, which is, the fish, the
yeah,
black and the white, the forever symbol.
yep,
In the age of Pisces, it was black or white. And if we didn't agree on black or white, we accepted judgment as somebody to judge us and say which one was which.
yep,
We're in the age of Aquarius, which is the age of consension, not judgment, where there's black, white, and gray. And the only person that would talk about detachment and attachment in that way is somebody who's still living in an attached state.
yeah,
Because like I have this spiritual leader, and I was talking to him about it was the idea of like you have a belief and you get evidence to support that belief, allows you to raise your belief to get evidence, to raise your belief to get evidence, raise your belief, and then there's a point where you no longer need the evidence. And I said, well, that's faith. When I no longer need the evidence to have the belief.
yeah,
And he goes, oh, you mean blind faith? And I said, oh, now I get it. Only somebody who doesn't have faith would call that type of faith blind, because it's not blind, it's completely informed.
yeah,
Faith isn't blind.
yeah, yeah. I love that too. Wow, man, I could talk to you for hours. There's so many different pathways and avenues to go down. Where are you right now? Are you in the Philippines?
I'm in the Philippines. I was at the resort where they do Survivor, the
Yep,
camp,
yep,
and on a beautiful beach camp on the island with the waves crashing in. And then all of a sudden, a storm comes up and they couldn't even haul us out by boat. So to get here for this meeting, I had to climb up over a mountain and down a mountain with Sherpas that are taking, like, literally, we've got Anella and Ala, my assistant. And they got these 12 guys carrying different bags that we have or things, equipment that we have. And
Yeah.
we're like literally up through a jungle and then down on the other side. And we couldn't get the helicopter out because it was too windy. So we're like sitting here in Survivor in the Philippines in this village that supports that
Yeah.
camp.
Yeah.
So I could have this meeting.
Well, one of your crew, the lovely Ella, she messaged me and she said, "Jem, we've got some things going on. We need to relocate. Can we push back the meeting by an hour?" And I said, "Yeah, of course, all good." I didn't realize you had to trek up a mountain and down the other side of a mountain, mate. Literally
Well,
climbing mountains to get here.
there's since you're my twin flame, and today is a Grandmaster Sagittarius day. So today is a 12 day, and number 12 is for Sagittarius, which is the opposite of your sign, which is my sign. And today's a Grandmaster day, and Sagittarius is about pushing the boundaries of belief. And today is about letting go of the limitations of the old. And it's also today is a day to uncover and dismantle the lies that have been covering us. And so that's why instead of just canceling today as the day for the podcast, that's why we just powered through to make this work, because this is, if any time of the year, I'm a Grandmaster Sagittarius and you're a Grandmaster Gemini. So we are polar opposites. And this seems like the day that the conversation should happen, because the magic forces of today are what's pulling us all together into this conversation, because the people that hear this are going to be impacted not by the words, but by the frequency and emotion that we're conveying in having this conversation. This was not easy. This was a jungle hike, and it was Survivor to get here for this meeting.
That's great. That's great. And look, when people get all the way up onto the mountain on our program in the Himalaya and it's remote and it takes, it's an effort to get there. And when they get up into these beautiful remote places and there's no people and there's just us and the eagles, the Himalayan eagles soaring above us, and then we take them through some ceremony and some ritual and some days of silence and etc., etc. And they get to their aha moment, like a big, beautiful penny drop moment of love. And people are like, wow, now I see why it was such a mission to get here. Because if it was easy, if I just got in my car and went to a hotel in the city and we had a retreat in some retreat place, half an hour drive from my house, this wouldn't have happened. I'm like, exactly. Exactly. You got to you got to climb the mountain to get there. And you did, Gary. So
Well,
I'm very
today was
grateful.
definitely one of those days where we climbed the mountain to get here.
Yeah.
I got to believe that something magical is going to transform in the way that people see themselves, their existence, or the message today. Gemini is about thought leading and communication, and you amplify, your astrology amplifies my master astrology and driving belief. So today's a day, whenever this podcast comes out, that people will have a new driving and a new belief, and be able to let go of the old by removing the veil and the beliefs that they had.
Yeah, and that is powerful. That is super powerful, and I think that answers the question I was asking before about, um, you know, what's something that people can focus on in terms of how they let go of the old way of being and move into a new way of being, so that they're best prepped for the times that we're in, and that's a beautiful
I can
answer to
tell
that.
my way. I can
Yeah,
share my
please.
it's these fascial maneuvers that I do. I do 20 to 30 minutes a day. I've been doing them for 6 years. They reduce 75 to 90% of the stress in my life. When I feel stress, I do it, because when I remove stress over a period of time, my baseline stress drops. So my capacity to receive and move to my field increases over time. The way to cope with what's coming is to be highly adaptable and highly mutable, and to be able to adjust your perception and be adaptable and mutable in your body. And that requires something other than what we have been doing. And my way of doing it was these fascial maneuvers. Start today, do a 15-minute stress reset. It's on our YouTube. Do that 1 to 2 times per day. Watch what happens in 3 days, on the seventh day, on the 21st day, and the 28th day. If you do it for 28 days, you will have a radical shift in your life. It will be measurable and something that you will not even be able to get your head around. We have tens of millions of people that have done this now. And the reason why in 5 years there's tens of millions of people doing this is because it is simple and it radically shifts our bodies, our emotions, and our perceptions all at once.
I'm going to put the link in the show notes, but just so that I can say it again now for people who don't read show notes, you said go to YouTube and look for the stress. What was it?
Human Garage, 15-minute stress reset. Just start there and just do that 1 to 2 times per day. It'll take you 12 minutes once you do it without a video. Just do that and watch what happens. It will open your bioenergetic field. It will reduce the biological stress in your body. It will regulate emotions. And then when you do that, your biology changes. And when your biology and your emotions change, you have a greater perception. And when you have a greater perception with different biology and different and balanced emotions, then you start to access those superpowers that we all know that we have that we just can't quite get to.
Well, you got me. I'm going to incorporate that into my morning practice, maybe even into the afternoon practice as well. So I have my meditation in the mornings and my affirmations and my healthy bits and pieces. And then in the afternoons after work, I exercise. And so that's an easy little bolt on to that existing routine. And
Yeah.
I'll definitely do the 28 days. And once I've done the 28 days, it'll be a habitual and I'll be addicted and I'll be doing it every day. So
Yeah,
that's
try it before your meditation practice and then see what happens to your meditation practice. It'll be
uh-huh.
on a whole new level. I promise you.
Okay, I'll do it before the meditation practice. Gary, I'm aware of your time and thank you so much for climbing over the mountain to get to this interview, mate. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you. I'm excited about our connection as well because I know this is just the beginning for us. And I'm also excited to get this episode post-produced and get the rest of them ready to go and launch this ASAP because I'm excited for people to listen to this conversation.
Yeah, it was a pleasure being here. There is a synergy, and I look forward to where this goes. But um, I have a feeling, an innate feeling of where it goes. But I'm just gonna let the opportunity in life unfold in front of us. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gary, and I'll see you on the flip side.
See ya.